Welcome back to TCU Talks. We're so excited to have you here today. We're talking about a really interesting topic and hopefully not boring, insurance, okay? It's been something that's probably been more on people's minds than ever before, especially with what's going on in the world the past year or so. So we're going to help you guys, give you the simplified version of insurance, hopefully not bore you to death. But Linda and I have been over in the insurance industry.
We have about combined 10 years experience in the industry.
So we're going to bring you some personal experience, things that we think are important when looking at insurance, and then just kind of giving you guys the overall idea.
Yeah, obviously sitting down with a lot of clients, things like home insurance, auto insurance, we're just so much more familiar with these things because, for one, auto insurance, you have to have it. Mm-hmm. If you're going to drive a vehicle, you have to have insurance. And home insurance or even tenant insurance, most of the time it's required. So people are a little bit more familiar. They know where they can get this stuff. But there's so much more types of insurance that often, people have heard and know about life insurance and critical illness or disability, but they don't know where to start with it because there's just a lack of education around it.
I 100% agree. And lots of the times, usually we get a job or a career that comes with some form of insurance. But we'll talk about maybe why that's not enough, or you should take care of yourself first. We're going to go through a few different core pieces here. First is why, okay? And I think when we're exploring why, we need to understand that there's some sort of either mitigating risk or managing some sort of risk. So risk is things that you're taking on that can damage your overall financial well-being or your family's well-being, okay? So maybe let's talk about the different types of insurance or the different areas you can get insurance in.
Yeah, so obviously we mentioned home and auto, which is a very commonly known one. Some of the other really big ones are things like health insurance. So that's not having to pay for like dental work or stuff like that. Critical illness. Critical illness protects you from exactly said illness. So if you were to get sick. Disability, if you were to get injured or need time off from work due to an illness. Those ones specifically, those affect you while you're alive, so typically in place to replace income. And then there's life insurance. Life insurance is designed to essentially, pay out and protect and cover your family should you no longer be there.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think, well, I'm dead, what's the point? You still have a responsibility to those that you've left behind, whether you have a family or not. There's still people who have to handle your estate, taxes, things like that. There's lots that go in with that.
Absolutely. So I think the biggest thing, like Jason mentioned, when it comes to insurance is assessing the risk that you have and having insurance so that that's no longer a burden for you. So having something to replace your income if you're not able to work or you need to take time to recover, or something in place to take care of your debts so it doesn't either overburden you or get passed on to your family should you pass away.
Yeah. And again, it's about removing yourself out of it so that it's for more than often usually for the people we leave behind. But again, if you only have a few months to live, it'd be nice to live it the way you want to live it, right? And a tax-free benefit would make a big difference. Let's talk about second point here. What's the right type of insurance for you, for me, or for anyone, okay? A few things you got to ask yourself in terms of finding out the right insurance for you. What type of risk are you trying to cover or mitigate, okay? Let's talk about car insurance first. Obviously, that's the most used one. If you get in a car accident, you need something that will protect your car to either fix it or get a new one, or the other person, maybe that you get in a car accident with, that might cover them, medical bills, lots of things that covers there, okay? But if you're planning for, in case of you get like a heart attack, stroke, or cancer, or something like that, that was where critical illness will come in, because a lot of the times people are surviving these things, so you need to figure out, okay, well, who's going to pay my bills while I'm in the hospital recovering, or whatever it may be, or getting treatment in another country even. Right?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is we hear all the time, oh, so-and-so got, diagnosed with cancer, and yet working still while going through treatment. This is just about I suppose gifting yourself the ability to just focus on yourself to get better if you get sick. Because, I mean, nobody needs that extra stress, that extra burden to have to worry about those things.
Yeah, and obviously if you're stressed, you can't get better, right? That's a big thing. Next point in the type of insurance that's proper for you would be time frame. Where or how long are you trying to protect for? So lots of the times we deal with this with people who are young and who have kids. Okay, what's the time frame? Do they have a mortgage? Do we need to protect that mortgage in case something happens to them so that the husband or wife doesn't have to worry about paying the mortgage if their spouse passes away? Are we talking about disability insurance? How long is the benefit going to be in case you get hurt? Do you know what your work covers for you for? Do you know if once you leave work and you're doing that snowmobiling trip and you get the thing falls on top of you and you get hurt, does your work insurance cover that? Things that you need to figure out about how long do you need that coverage for and about how much do you need for that, okay? Yep. The next part is what's the end goal? So when we're looking at different insurances, is it just to cover debt? Is it to replace your income of some sort? Is it to leave a legacy maybe for your family? Maybe you want to pass down $1 million to your family. That way they have a great, stool to stand on. Your kids have the ability to go to school and do things they want to do if you're not here and you pass away, unfortunately, early. Maybe it's to protect in case you get sick. Maybe you get hurt. So the end goal will determine what type of insurance you're looking for.
Yeah, and especially determining, how, basically the essential factors is what are you covering? Mm-hmm. The biggest ones that I typically find are home, major debts, and children. I believe that if you have any amount of children, any amount, if you have children,
a child,
period,
yeah.
Then you need a certain amount of insurance to cover things like them going to school or, the cost of childcare if something were to happen to you, whatever else you want to leave them. If it's, lifestyle changes so much.
Yeah, and the bills keep coming. They don't just disappear. Sure, the grocery bill might shrink, but that's about it.
It's the only bill that shrinks.
Yeah. So that leads us into the next area we want to chat about, determining the right amount of coverage. Now, this rule will change depending on what your end goal is, but we're going to give you a general idea for the different areas, so you can just think about what's going to be best for you and your family. I'm going to start off talking about life insurance. So this is in case you pass away. How much insurance is the right amount? Keeping in mind you want to pay off debts, okay? The general rule is between 10 to 20 times your annual income, okay? So if we break that down, it's used for two different things. Number one, like I said, paying off debts. And number two, replacing the income that you're no longer bringing in, okay? So if we look at a general example, someone making $100,000 a year, let's say I'm working in the oil patch, we'll use Linda and I as an example. I'm making $100,000 a year, bring in at home. I have about maybe $400,000 in debt. That might be a vehicle and a mortgage, okay? Typically in Edmonton, Alberta. Canada, that's pretty average for most people, okay? So if we use the minimum times 10, we take 100,000 times it by 10, that equals $1 million, okay? Now I know that looks like a lot of coverage to have $1 million in coverage, but we're going to pay off that 400,000 in debt. That leaves 600,000 for our family. Now that's just not for your family to go to Vegas, right? Have a good time. That's typically used to replace your income because you're no longer bringing in 100,000 a year, okay? So what we do is we typically take that 600,000 that's left over after paying off all the debt. We conservatively invest that at a rate around, let's call it 5%. 5%,
yeah.
Okay. That's going to produce an income for your family, even though you're no longer here, of about $30,000 a year. Okay. It's not the full 100,000 I was bringing before, right? But at least it'll pay for things like expenses, childcare, something like that. Whatever the surviving spouse wants to use it for. Obviously, the more insurance you have, the higher that number will be, or the faster you pay off the debts, that will help balance it in as well.
Yeah. Typically, when we're looking at something like critical illness, Like we mentioned, most people are surviving cancer or heart attacks or strokes, and it's really about covering that time frame that it takes to get better. So typically we recommend 6 months to a year's salary to kind of determine that. And critical illness used for a few different things. It is if you just need time to get better, not have to worry about going to work. You can use the money if you want to maybe go seek treatment in another country. Maybe it's not available here, or you find out your time frame to live is very limited and you just want to check things off your bucket list. You want to be able to ensure that you have enough to take care of those things. And then in terms of disability insurance, obviously disability is regulated by the government. They don't want people, they don't want to make it super convenient for people to live on disability, or people wouldn't get back into the workforce, which I think is important because there's a fulfillment that comes from that.
Yeah.
But making sure that you have enough coverage in place to recover from a disability and take care of your affairs in that time so that it's enough to get by, but also long enough that you're better and able to go back to your job when the time's come.
100%. Especially if you can't perform your normal work that you normally would do, you have to see which insurance does for what. Some of them will say, well, you can sit in a toll booth and collect fares at a parking lot, but maybe that's not what you want to do. But remember, insurance companies are just a business as well. Their job is to be as profitable as possible. So if you can get back to work, they're going to try to find a way for you to do that. Okay. Just to touch on critical illness before we wrap up today. Critical illness is one of those things that, if you think about it in today's time, is that our testing and studying has just gotten way more extensive and more accurate, and we've been diagnosing things a lot faster.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're finding out people are getting more critical illnesses because we're able to test for these things in this day and age a lot faster than we could years ago. So you might think, oh, what's the point of that? Well, just think about it. I think the stats in Canada are around 1 in 2 Canadians are going to get some form of cancer. Okay, might not be all life-threatening, but just the thought of either Linda and I is going to get some form of cancer in our lifetime, that scares us, and that's something that we're okay with saying, hey, we should mitigate the risk in case something happens. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I said, we've been in the industry for a while now. We helped a lot of people set up plans and get things into order. Unfortunately, we've had experiences with clients that we've had to deliver some benefits to them. We never want to see our clients use the policies we put into place for them, but unfortunately, it's part of what we do, and it's a rewarding process as well.
And I think exactly that. It's never great to be diagnosed with an illness or for a client to have to make a claim. But it's a huge part of the benefit of what we do and that security we're able to offer. I know for myself personally, I have had a few claims pay out. And I think the one that speaks the most to the realism of how real it is that it could totally happen to anyone. I have an incredible client of mine. She is early 30s, so she's not much older than I am. Her husband actually works for the military. He works overseas. And she's got 2 beautiful little ones at home. And she was actually diagnosed very early with breast cancer. And her policy paid out under prevention for $25,000. So while she's at home taking care of her little ones by herself, he was deployed at that time, but financially, she doesn't have to worry about daycare or a babysitter while she goes and does the treatments that she needs. The coolest thing is, thankfully with breast cancer in her case, by the time she received her payout, she had already had everything necessary done to make sure that she was clean and clear. But that $25,000 went to whatever it is that she needed it for her and her family.
Yeah.
So it's good.
The big thing to remember here as well is it doesn't bring back the person that left this place for us or with
life
us.
Insurance,
It doesn't take back the fact that you had to go through treatment and get better, and sometimes people don't pull through those treatments, unfortunately. It doesn't change the fact that it's stressful in the family. It doesn't bring back the fact that that husband couldn't be there for his wife in that moment in time, but it does pull off the financial burden, and that is a big part of our life, whether you like it or not, right? It just is. It's the reality that we live in. But boy, does it feel good to be able to give something when a lot of people are coming to take things. It's great to be able to help them, okay? In summary, right? Something to think about. If you have questions about what's best for you and your family, or taking a look at your overall plan and making sure it's the right stuff for you, feel free to shoot us an email. We'll definitely answer any questions that you have. It should be posted in the description below, or just message us at teamcastrouniverse@gmail.com. We'll do our best to set you up with somebody that we trust, or answer any questions that you have. We just want to thank you guys for joining us today. I hope you learned a little bit more about insurance and how to protect you and your family, and you didn't fall asleep in the process.
I love insurance.
If you want to give back to someone that you love and cherish, and maybe insurance isn't the best gift out there for them, we do have the Team Castro Universe Foundation, the TCU Foundation. We're giving away $100 a month to someone who's very special, that's been nominated by one of you listeners, one of you people on YouTube watching. Again, in the description below, there's a link. All we need is just to tell us why they deserve that $100, and hopefully they get chosen for that. Okay? Thanks so much for joining us today on TCU Talks. We'll see you all soon. Bye.